Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I'm glad you're able to join us today. We're going to do a quick walkthrough of the Title 4A application supplement. This it's the annual report application supplement. This is actually what we use to complete our CSPR report for the U.S. Department of Education, as well as our annual report for the U.S. Department of Education, both of which are required in statute. Um, Sorry, just letting a few more people in. So in our notes document, which I will drop a link to in the chat, and then if you would be kind enough to drop your name and district in the chat, that way we can just keep track of attendance. I'd appreciate that. But in our Title 4 office hours notes document, I just threw some information in there that I'm not really going to go over during this call, but it's for you to reference. Essentially, why is this information collected? What do you need to know about the report? What are the steps to go through to complete the report? And then what that fiscal and programmatic section look like. And then we'll have some time for question and answers also. Make sure I'm letting our last few folks in. And so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just kind of walk you through how to access that application supplement and what's required this year. So let's start with this. All right. If you're not seeing that, please feel free to jump off the screen and holler at me. But otherwise, you should see a view of the test side of eGMS. Remember, you'll want to go into the regular section of eGMS, but just for demonstration purposes, I wanted to start here. So once you're logged in to eGMS and can see your district, you'll want to go over to this menu on the left and select Application Supplements. From there, you'll want to make sure that the year says 2026 and then select that Title 4A annual report for 2025. And then I'm going to switch screens really quickly and jump over to this one. Okay, so once you're in the app or the application supplement, you will want to start off in that section page, which it probably brought you to, right from the start. But you'll want to change the status, and sorry, I guess that was in the test version. Change the status to application supplement started. So that's the first step. It won't let you enter anything until you've made that initial change. Let me let somebody else in here real quick. All right. All righty. Sorry. So then from there, you'll want to click on Title 4A Annual Report, and that'll bring up the application supplement. To start, you'll want to make sure you enter in your name, email, and phone number. And this should be the person that's in charge of Title IV, just, or in charge of completing this report for Title IV. Either way, honestly, who can we contact if we have questions or need a little bit of additional information? That's essentially what this is asking for. Now, I apologize again because the due date for this is going to be a little less than 2 weeks from now, the 8th of May. And the reason for that is we had to get the report information from U.S. Department of Ed. And then once we had that, tried to update our system and then had to go through Link to get access to reports. So I apologize for that short turnaround. I'm going to make it a little easier for you. We'll talk about that in a second, just because I am able to provide at least 1 year's worth of that data directly from eGMS for you. All right. So once you have the contact information filled out, and again, to get to this for our friends that just joined us, let me let one more person in here. All right. To get to this application supplement for our friends that just joined us, on your left side menu, you'll have application supplements. You'll select that. Once you're there, you'll make sure that you select the Title 4A annual report for 2025 and that you have the year as 2026 selected. Then, excuse me, you want to make sure you say application supplement started, and that's what allows you to enter information there into the report and select the Title 4A annual reporting. Fill out the top information with your contact info, and then there's this question here is going to be really important, especially for those districts who transferred all of their funds out of Title 4A. So if they did not spend any amount of money at all in Title 4A itself, you will select no. And then you're done with the application supplement. Once you have your contact information and that, you can go back to save and go to sections. Helps if I click on sections and then switch the status to application supplement completed. However, if you did spend any funds in Title 4A, in other words, you didn't transfer out your entire allocation, you'll want to mark yes, and then you'll complete these sections below. So down below, if you spent funds between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025, so kind of essentially looking at that 24-25 school year, in well-rounded, you'll want to check this box. And then it's going to ask you to break that down between 3 different grants. So that 22-23 grant, which was in the old GMS system, that 20, and I know you don't have access to that, but you should still have access to your accounting records. So hopefully that won't be too hard to find. And remember that the reporting period would be that July 1st to September 30th. However, you have that period of liquidation up until December 31st of 2024. So essentially anytime between July 1st and December 31st, sorry, that you drew money on the 22-23 grant, you would enter that value in this box. For the 23-24 grant, we're looking again July 1st all the way up to June 30th of 2025, and that would go here. And then for the 24-25 grant, I'll pull all of that information from eGMS, so you can just leave this question blank. Now, I know some of you have already gone in and started your application supplement, for the Title 4A annual report. And if you've already put information in there, no problem. You can leave it there. You don't have to go back and try to, take it out. It's just if you haven't begun this process yet, you can just leave it blank and I'll take care of that. All right, so I'm gonna pause for just a second and just see if there's any questions so far. And you can just hop off mute or jump in the chat, whatever's easiest. And if you joined us a little late and you haven't added your name and district to the chat, please do so. And I will make sure to drop the link to this, to our notes page back in here again, so that way you have it. Okay. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and keep moving through the supplement quickly here. And, oops. All right. Hopefully you're still seeing this page. If not, holler at me. But otherwise, then once you've entered the well-rounded information, fiscal information, then you'll go down to that programmatic evaluation. And for this, you'll want to kind of take a look back at your application and just see like, okay, what did we set out to do in our application? What were those objectives and outcomes that we entered in there for our programmatic activities for Title 4A? And if, for example, in college and career counseling, you did not have any activities, you can just leave it blank, leave it unselect. You don't have to enter anything. However, let's say that your district started a STEM lab at your middle school. And so you'll want to, review the data, determine how well did we meet that objective. If we said we were going to, increase the hours that students and teachers were utilizing the lab, or it was going to improve our NAEP scores and our, maybe we did one in our elementary school, or whatever the case may be, take a second and just evaluate what was the progress towards meeting that objective. And it's just a drop-down menu here. If you did exactly, what you set out to do, hit met objective, and then continue on. Remember, if you didn't spend any funds in that area between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025, just leave that section blank. Um, then after the programmatic evaluation, it'll ask about if there were any, oh, sorry, I guess if there were any other activities that maybe weren't included in this list. So that's, when you have that budget strand of like other allowable, well-rounded activities, that's what you would put here and evaluate those. And then from there, you can move on to the safe and healthy section, where if you spent funds between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025 in the safe and healthy contact or content area of Title IV, you'll repeat those steps. And remember, this question here for all three areas can be left blank because I can pull that data for you. That way you only have to collect those 2 years of data. Um, Evaluate the programming again, move on to effective use of technology. And let's say, for example, between July 1st, 2024 and June 30th, 2025, you didn't actually spend any funds on effective use of technology, which, sometimes happens just based on how our grant years and funding cycles. So, if you didn't spend funds in that area, you'll just leave it blank. You don't have to worry about filling out the fiscal or programmatic information, in an area where you didn't actually spend any funds. And then this number 4 here, this is the equitable services piece. And this is looking at that entire section across grants altogether. So July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, were there any funds spent in well-rounded across any of those three grants? Um, and that you'll enter here if it's, safe and healthy, effective use of technology, get that information entered. Number 5, totally optional. I know some of you are, well, all of you are doing really great things with Title IV, but some of you have some things you might want to share. And so if there's something, an impact statement that you just want to add a couple sentences here about a project you're really, really proud of that you'd like us to consider putting into our annual report that gets submitted to USAID, feel free to put that here. This is your opportunity to just brag on, yourself and your team a little bit about the great work that's being done in your district. And I know our partners at USN love to learn about those types of things that are going on in schools. So if there's any information you'd like to add, feel free. If not, and you've completed everything else on this page, you can go back up to Save and Go To, select Sections, and then submit application supplement completed. Once you've done that, it'll send it directly, to the superintendent or authorized representative for approval. And then once that's been approved, it'll go to us at WDE. All right. Sorry for all that. Kay, I see that you have your hand up. If you want to come off mute and let me know your question, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep my camera off because the
That's
camera makes it freeze. So I had it on and then you started freezing, so I turned it off. Um, at that bottom for that optional, it does have the year before's dates. Should it still be 2024 through 2025? Or
Oh
do
my
they
goodness. Did I miss one? Let's see. We're at the very, very
the very
bottom.
bottom, the optional
Oh,
one?
yes. Thank you for
Okay.
catching that.
All
I
right.
cannot tell you how many times I've reviewed
Yes.
these dates and then I find one and have to, put in a little ticket for Jeannie to fix and
Yeah.
correct. So,
Okay. So we
but
are
yes,
talking the July 1st, 2024, June 30th, 2025. Perfect.
yes.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Thank
No,
you for
no,
catching
it's
that. I'll make sure we get that corrected. But yes,
I
the
do
the
the same
24.
thing. Like, oh,
So just like think about the 24-25 school year essentially is what we're looking at there. Thank you. Great question. What other questions do you have that I can help answer for you or explain or try to make this process a little easier? Because I know it's a lot. Especially I know right now many of you are you know, neck deep in budgets for next year, especially with recalibration. So I recognize there's a lot on your plate, and if I could get away with not having to ask you this, I totally would. So I apologize and thank you for your help. But what other questions might you have? Very similar to last year. Hopefully that makes it a little easier. I'm going to stop. Um, oh, maybe I had already had stop sharing. Nope. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. Technical difficulties. Right. Well, as you jump into this, if something does arise, please feel free to send me an email or call me. Oops. And I can walk you through, what to do, answer your question, provide any support I can. Again, the due date is May 8th. And the reason for that is that'll give us, one, a chance to send a quick reminder Monday morning for anything that didn't get turned in on the 8th. And then two, that way we can compile our report, which we have to our team at WDE that uploads it all into the CSPR portal. We can have that to them by the 12th. So that way they can get it entered and submitted in case there's any difficulties, and it gets kicked back. So um, thank you. Thank you for that. I will send out reminders, next week. So, again, if something comes up as you're working on this, just let me know.
Mary, should we have allocation soon?
Um, yes, I hope so. So, I have the unofficial 2A and 4A allocations. If you want to send me an email, I can provide you with just, those values so you can see what if there's no changes, once they do their final review, then that should be what your allocation is for 2A and 4A. But what they like to do is they like to kind of hang on to everything and then Mark sends out that superintendent's update announcing the allocations, and then we all send them out to the districts. And I know that this week, I believe Title I was meeting with US Ed, and so they were just finalizing those and making sure, since it's Karen's first year, that everything is squared away there. So hopefully we'll be getting that information out soon. But yeah, just send me an email. I'll send you what I have for 2A and 4A. Off the record, even though this is being recorded.
No, thank
What
you.
can I do
I was
for
just
funding?
hoping to have a number to work with by May 14th for my meeting. So
Oh yes,
yeah.
yeah, definitely.
So that's, yeah. Okay.
I
Thank
hope
you.
it will all be set and ready to go for you by then.
Awesome. Thank you. Mhm.
You're very welcome.
Thank
What
you for
other?
this too.
Oh, of
All right.
course. Are there any other questions about, even if it's not CSPR/annual report related, anything else I can do for you or answer for you today? All right. Well, I will give you this time back because I know you definitely have a lot on your plate. And I just, again, thank you so much for all that you do. And if anything pops up, let me know. Um, and then if you join late and you missed part of it and you have a question, feel free to stay on for just a minute and I'd be glad to answer that for you too.